Hey guys, Mike from Mike's Gaming Gala here, and I wanted to talk about the news that was released today that Atari has purchased Atari Age. Now, of course, 2 months ago, just shortly after Albert had put up his last call sale for a lot of ports, I posted speculation that this would happen. It was based on multiple different things, and it has come to fruition. Now, at the time of that post, Albert outright denied it. He said, no, the rumors are not true. Please stop spreading that. Obviously, he's got to do what he's got to do for his business. Apparently, they've been in talks since really the beginning of the year. I'm not upset about that. Atari Age is a business, Atari is a business, and they have to do their thing. But I do remember that after that, and I had posted my clarification video that it was just speculation, but it was speculation that didn't just come out of my ass. It was based on a lot of different things and talking with some people behind the scenes. So I left the video up, and in the second video, I'm like, Albert said it's not true, so it's not true, fine. And a lot of people really attacked me for it. Not a big deal. That's kind of how every community is these days. So that's all good. But I do remember I remember I was emailing back and forth with Ballistic Coffee Boy at the time. And he sent me an email like, oh, and Atari has denied it too. They said it's not happening. And I was like, oh, where'd you hear that? And it was a zero-page Homebrew live stream where they interviewed somebody from Atari. And so I went and I watched that, and I watched the entire interview with that guy, and I replied to Ballistic Coffee Boy. It's like, he didn't say no. It was a matter, and they did their part. They zero-page Homebrew. They asked the question, is Atari buying Atari Age? And the response at the time from that gentleman, and I'm sorry I don't recall his name, but he said, well, I don't know anything about that, but if something was happening, I'm sure people would want to keep it close to their chest. So obviously, this explains everything that has gone on in the last few months. Atari has bought Atari Age. Now, Atari Age is run by Albert, and Albert is staying on. Albert will be the internal historian for Atari, which I think is a perfect role for him. He mentioned in his post that, where he announced this, that he had a lot of different things that he wanted to accomplish that he couldn't accomplish on his own because Atari Age was taking up too much time. And not to mention, like I had said in my previous video that I had heard, but he's now confirmed in his announcement, that he was looking for a way out from Atari Age. It takes a lot of time to run a store and run a forum, and I'm sure he's got other gigs going on. And, that's a quality of life thing, and I can respect that. So, honestly, although I'm really unsure with this acquisition, there'll be a lot to kind of figure out. But if it was a choice between this acquisition or just Atari Age goes away, I think this is the better of the two choices. I found a home there. I have been lurking there for about 20 years. I've only had an account there since January, since I started this channel. So, yeah, but I've been a member of other forums, and I'm very familiar with the format. I'm familiar with how you have to kind of interact with people, and we'll talk a bit more about that. But what I did want to say is, I have worked in news, granted in the graphics department, but I've managed graphics departments, and I have had to attend all the news meetings and, with news directors and producers and reporters and journalists. And over the years, I've learned to respect that there is a big difference between a reporter and a journalist. A reporter passes on the news. A journalist analyzes the news. So a perfect example of a reporter is that a company or a politician or whoever will put out a press release. So let's go with the politician thing just to keep it out of that. But they'll issue a press release and says, I'm going to do A, B, and C. And then the reporter will write an article or do a piece saying, this candidate says they're going to do A, B, and C. A journalist will take that press release where the candidate says, I'm going to do A, B, and C, and they will try to put more things together. Because the fact of the matter is, in my 20 years of being in the news environment, I can probably count on one hand how many press releases gave all the info or even correct info. And that's because, like that representative from Atari on the zero-page homebrew stream said, you want to keep your cards close to your chest. And you want to manage the story, and you want to kind of control the story if you can. So a journalist is going to take that A, B, and C and say, this candidate said they're going to do A, B, and C, but C doesn't make sense based on their history, and B interferes with this thing that's going on over here, and they will actually analyze and pick apart that. Now, I don't consider myself a journalist. This is not a news channel by any means. I do reviews. But when I was speculating, that's the mindset that I was speculating with. And should I do more speculating in the future on anything, you can rest assured that I've thought about it a lot. And I'm not just going to repeat a statement that somebody's made. I'm not going to just, ad nauseum kind of forward that information. I'm going to analyze it. I'm going to give my opinions on it. So that's my approach to these kind of talks. Now, obviously, there are people who, once this was announced, they think it's the greatest thing since sliced bread, and there's people who think that this is awful. There are people calling Albert a sellout. I don't think Albert's a sellout. I think it makes sense that he made this move. It sounds like he made this move with the best interest of the community at heart, as opposed to just wrapping things up and leaving. So that's good. And he's still going to be involved. Again, that journalist mentality, the statement saying, oh, nothing's going to change short term, that short term wording could very well mean something. The future of the forums is in question. The future of that store is in question. But that's things that we don't have the answer to. Quite frankly, if Atari is smart, they won't touch anything for a while. Because I think there would be severe backlash. And the fact of the matter is that for 20 years, and I think what maybe a lot of new VCS fans don't understand, or maybe classic Atari fans who haven't been a part of Atari Age don't understand, for all intents and purposes, prior to this newest iteration of Atari, for about 20 years, Atari Age was Atari. More than any other site or organization, it kept Atari alive. And you can complain about, the old boys club, which is certainly true on every forum. You complain about rude and snarky people, which is certainly true on any forum. You can complain about cliques and not being nice to new people. That's the same as on every forum. That doesn't mean it's right, but it's the same. I experienced similar things on the Replica Prop forum when I first joined, a long time ago now. But if you stick to it, you kind of learn who the trolls are, you stay away. from them. Most people that I found on AtariAge have been very kind, and our interactions have been pleasant. I spend most of my time in the Intellivision section. It's about the right speed for me, and I know a lot of those guys. So, you know, whether or not you like the forums, for a lot of people, AtariAge is Atari, and it was also the biggest hub for getting new Atari games. And they've been publishing them for years and years and years, and it's a very established thing. So if Atari's smart, they will keep it as is for now. And I think if they start going around and censoring things any more than they are currently censored, obviously AtariAge has community guidelines, there's going to be a severe backlash. And people will turn on them really quick. I think it's smart that Albert, at least for now, is continuing to moderate there. I think it is smart that, at least for now, they seem to be leaving things as is. And I do think that this current iteration of Atari is a smart company. I don't think they're dumb. A lot of the moves that they've been making, particularly in the last year, have made good sense for the longevity of their company. Say what you want about the VCS. It's an underpowered mini PC, or it doesn't do this, it doesn't do that, it can't compete. It does what it needs to do. And if you can give Atari one thing, it looks sexy. And this new Atari 2600 Plus, it looks pretty sexy too. This is what I wish the old flashbacks would have looked like, instead of with those big orange buttons. So, and with their kind of shift to really taking advantage of that nostalgia and cartridges and embracing that, I think that's a smart move, and I think they're gonna do pretty well with it. And if they're smart with Atari, with AtariAge, and they don't change it to the point that it's not recognizable as AtariAge, I think this will have been a very smart acquisition for them. If they go in there and start being heavy-handed, particularly on criticism of the VCS, or if they try to really come down on other consoles and stuff like that, as opposed to trying to bring them together more, they're going to have a really rough time. This could be a bad purchase for them. But I don't think they're going to. Believe it or not, I do have some faith in this current Atari management. So I think they're going to do all right. Which leads us to the Atari 2600 Plus, which the announcement that Atari wanted to start doing this cartridge-based system, and then they announced this system, and it wasn't really what some of us hardcore fans wanted, but it's still going to play 2600 and 7800 carts. It was probably the best choice that Atari could have made. It's an accessible system. If they were to make an FPGA 7800, which I would adore, that's what me and a lot of hardcore fans would really want, but it's got a very limited appeal. And so having this emulation box that will play 7800 cartridges and 2600 cartridges at a much cheaper price is not a bad idea. It's going to have widespread appeal. It's not going to be compatible with everything. And that's the frustration that guys like me have. For instance, here's my Retron 77, and it's compatible with, I'd say, 95% plus of the original library of games, but only compatible with about 50-60% of my homebrew games, which is a concern. A lot of people are calling the 2600 Plus just a Retron 77 too, which is fine. A lot of people have these, a lot of people love these. I really like mine. I just wish it was compatible with everything. And in fairness, I think Atari's version of their emulation box looks a heck of a lot nicer than this. Hopefully their compatibility will be good, but if not, it is what it is. I'm still going to get it, and I'm probably going to buy, you know, a new set of paddles with a multi-cart and all that stuff too. Right now it's not available in Canada, but I'm still going to buy it. Maybe when I do receive it, it'll probably be after the fact, so maybe somebody will do this before me and I won't. But I can test it with a whole bunch of homebrews. I've got dozens and dozens of homebrews for the Atari 2600. One point that I did want to make though, and you know, Ballistic Coffee Boy, if you love the VCS and all things Atari, he's got a great channel. Make sure to check him out. He's full of news, multiple videos daily sometimes. I don't know how he keeps up that because he's also very busy outside of YouTube. But one thing he said about the 2600 Plus was that it's not for homebrews. And that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Because the fact of the matter is that, you know, this isn't for homebrews. This is for Atari cartridges. And homebrews are Atari cartridges. They are unlicensed, much like a large portion of the original Atari 2600 library. But in my mind, you release something like this, really any Atari cartridge you get, if it works on original hardware, it should work on this. And we already know that's not going to be the case about the 2600 Plus. And that's why I think it's valid that people are not too happy about that. At the same time, for us hardcore guys, particularly us homebrew guys, we have to remember that that's not who the system is targeting. The system is targeting as broad an audience as possible. It's targeting more of the flashback audience than it is the hardcore audience. So that's just something to keep in mind. I don't think there's any need to hate the 2600 Plus. I think all these people that think it's the greatest thing since sliced bread also need to maybe get a reality check. But it's going to be good. I mean, YouTube has a nasty way of kind of pushing people into corners where you have to be all for something or you have to be all against something. And both the 2600 Plus and this Atari Age acquisition, I don't think anybody who's in, you know, dedicated in one camp is right. I think it depends on from whose perspective you look at it. I think it depends on you know, what Atari does. There's a lot of, you know, questions about what they're going to do with Atari Age. However, one good thing is that this move probably means, that any new games, homebrew games, although it'd be hard to call anything from Atari Age once this gets running homebrew, because they'll probably be official Atari releases, which I don't have a problem with. It's the same game, it's just different branding. Well, maybe I have a little problem with it. It's going to cost more. I guarantee you it's going to cost more. But the benefit of that is, pretend this is a 2600 Plus, every game you buy in Atari Age, unless somebody completely drops the ball and makes moronic decisions, is going to work on your 2600 Plus. That to me should be a given. So that's a positive. The future of Atari Age, I think the forums will probably remain mostly the same. I think moderation could potentially get a little heavier depending on who's posting and what they're posting. I'm never a fan of censorship. I think if Atari's smart, they should let the haters just run themselves out. It's kind of like when you've got a kid and they're throwing a tantrum, you just ignore them, because the more attention you pay to them, the more they see it's working, and the more they do. So I think their wisest course of action, should they find people complaining about the acquisition or about them as a company or about the 2600 Plus or the VCS, is to just ignore it. Let it be. One last point. Other homebrew distributors for the Atari 2600 are now in direct competition with Atari. That should make other publishers worry a little bit. Not if they're producing entirely new games. I don't think Atari's ever going to go after somebody who makes a brand new Atari game of a new IP, new gameplay, and all that stuff, and they produce it themselves and run off with it. But if you manufacture or sell ports, I think the era of Atari 2600 and 7800 ports is gone, unless Atari releases them themselves. So just keep that in mind, but I think that's the case. And I know a lot of my friends really, really love the ports, and I do too. They're really well made, but they're not what excites me about homebrew. What excites me about homebrew is brand new games. So hopefully this fosters some of that. You know, guys like Champ Games, who make fantastic ports and remasters of old games, maybe they can be brought on to, like, if you've got a good programmer or somebody with a really good idea, and somebody like John Champeau, who's really good at, you know, getting the most out of those old systems, put them together. Because John has said that, you know, he's not really good at coming up with new games, but he's really good at making the old ones really good. So, you know, take something that somebody else has made that could use a lot of spit and polish, which a lot of 2600 games could. And I know I'm focusing mostly on the 2600, but obviously this 2600 Plus will also play 7800. But take a 2600 game that, you know, the game concept there is good, but the spit and polish isn't there. Give it to John Champeau. He puts all his spit and polish, and all of a sudden, you know, your level of quality of games has gone up. So that's my speculation for now. I feel vindicated. Like I said, a lot of people kind of attacked me saying I was trying to do clickbait and being sensationalist. My promise to you guys is that, yes, I'm going to make my titles and my thumbnails something that I think people will click on, but they will never lie to you. I'm not afraid of controversy. I will talk about controversial things, and people will like me or hate me for it. That's fine. But I will never clickbait you. If I post a title, that video will be about the title. I'm just trying to figure out the most attractive way to put that so that people will watch the video, because of course I want your views, and of course I want your subs, but I'm not going to lie or hurt my integrity to do that. So that's pretty much all I have to say about that, and yeah, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time on Mike's Gaming Gala.